Hello, and welcome to the latest Content Club Pep Talk. Tonight we've got Kate O'Brien, who's going to talk to us about AI being an ally of content design. So over to you, Kate.
Thanks for the warm welcome. Thank you for having me. So I'm Kate. I'm a content designer, and I am going to talk to you about how AI can be your new best friend in the world of content design and in life. Currently, I'm at Buybox, which is a field service logistics technology company, which is a mix of software, logistics, and smart locker solutions so that our customers can get parts dropped off by couriers, store their parts securely, and get their parts collected by field engineers. So those are my users, field engineers and third-party carriers. I'm a solo content designer. So I work with various product managers and a solo UX designer. I work on 4 mobile apps, 2 web-based apps, and I manage the help site content and the localization of 2 of our global apps. So yeah, no 2 days are the same. So moving on to the next slide. What is AI? So AI, or artificial intelligence, it's not anything new. It's been evolving over time. And I feel like recently it's gotten a bit of a bad rep, like it's some monster to be afraid of that's going to take our jobs. And I hope by the end of this, in an hour's time, you'll feel a bit more reassured that that's not the case. For me, I feel it's more of an incredible tool to enhance our capabilities. And what is the sparkly new shiny toy to do with AI is type of AI known as generative AI. Now, generative AI, like OpenAI's ChatGPT, and other tools you will have been maybe familiar with, use a type of AI technology called natural language processing, or NLP for short. And that's all about understanding, analyzing, and creating language that sounds just like us. So it's been trained on all the content, well, a lot of the content on the web, all collated before the close of 2021. So what I'll be referring to largely in the next hour will be mainly related to OpenAI's ChatGPT, although there are others I have used and I will reference, including Google Bard and Perplexity AI more recently that I've been dabbling in. But on the whole, it's ChatGPT I've got the most experience on. So that's what I'll be talking about for the best part. Now, in terms of AI and where you might be using it already, it's been subtly embedded more and more in the content design tools that we use every day. So for instance, like Grammarly, that's a popular one that many of us use. And I still marvel every time I'm writing a Google Mail and the keyboard seems to predict exactly what word and what sentence I want to type. So that's AI in action right there. And there's so many features that are coming very soon in AI for Google products, Microsoft Office 365. If you'd have seen that a couple of months ago, they announced Copilot. So I'm really excited to see how that's going to kind of change the way we work within Word, PowerPoint, Excel, all of those products that we use to make hopefully a lot more lighter work for some of the things that can take us quite a long time at the moment. LinkedIn last week shared that they're including AI in to assist with creating new posts. I noticed on a Miro board not too long ago that there was an analysis feature to summarize your content on your post-its. So if you're not already using AI now, you soon will be as it becomes baked into more and more of the tools we'll be using. So yeah, for me, and you'll notice the magic theme throughout, which you'll either love or hate. Hopefully you'll love it. For me, it's been like discovering a bit of magic. I feel like it's really amplified my creativity. It's helped me to understand my users better. It's helped me to create more personalized content. So just want to reiterate, I don't think it's here to steal our jobs. It's here to supercharge us and give us more room, more space to focus on the things we truly love, creating meaningful content for our users. So yeah, so let's buckle up and go through the various stages of content design in UX writing and discover how AI can lend a magical touch at each step of the process. So one thing I will ask though, before we kick off onto that is, are you already using AI tools in your work? So it'd be really good just to understand, just to gauge, like, are you already using it? Just a quick like yes or no would be great. And what ones you're using. Just in the next 20 seconds, be good just to gauge that. I actually can't see any of the chat. So Tom, if you, or Nia, if you're able, just to...
So people are saying ChatGPT. Somebody said something I've never heard of before.
What's that?
Maybe a word tune.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And people are saying using the brainstorm, summarizing stuff. Some using it for a little mix of success. Notion AI, Bard, idea storming, drafting ideas, Grammarly. Yeah, there you go.
Fab. Thank you for sharing that. So just to kind of start at the beginning of the design process and to set the scene of how AI can be used, what I'll be doing at each what I'll be demonstrating at each stage of the process is giving you prompts as suggestions that you can use. So if you're not unfamiliar with the term prompt, a prompt is simply a statement or a question that you ask in the AI tool to get a response. So think of it like your starting point, how you might start a conversation with a friend by asking a question or making a comment. So that will be on each step in the process. So just to kick off at the beginning of the content design process for that discovery phase, how AI can be like your crystal ball, uncovering those hidden gems, those hidden insights, can identify common search terms on your website, help you understand what your users are looking for, and summarize key points from user interviews, all of that good stuff. So a couple of prompt examples that I've put there are: help me identify key themes from these user interviews and generate a summary of common user queries from these chat logs. And I mean, these are just a couple of ideas just to get your creative juices flowing. And I'm thinking, you know, as soon as those AI tools are plugged into things like Excel and Google Sheets, you know, it's going to be even better for those large kind of volumes of data. So that will be really exciting to see those developments. For non-content design research, this is where I've had quite a lot of fun experimenting. For example, if you're anything like me, you'll get sent a YouTube video from your friend quite regularly. That's like an hour long, and you mean to come back to it and watch it, but you just don't have the time, or you forget. And what's really good, there's a really great ChatGPT plugin that's free, and it can summarize the contents of that YouTube video into however many bullet points as that you want. And that's just really good because it means that I can read that summary much quicker than if I was listening to that YouTube video, and I know exactly whether it would be worth me sitting through it, or I can revisit like specific points in that video at whatever's piqued my interest. Also, something I've been experimenting with recently, and this is in ChatGPT, there's a number of plugins that have been released, and there's hundreds of them. There's a few that I keep revisiting, and one of them is called the Scraper tool. And I said, can you use Scraper for the following 8 web pages? And the web pages that I reference were pages from the World Economic Forum's Future of Job report. Give me your top 10 predictions for the jobs of the future and why. And one of the follow-up questions I asked was, how do you think the role of content designer will evolve based on the findings from the World Economic Forum Future of Job report, Future of Work report? And yeah, it was really interesting. And I mean, it's important just to mention that, you know, all of that data on the web, and especially like reports like that, they're all created by, you know, human beings. Human beings are notoriously not great at predicting the future. So as great as like ChatGPT is, you know, I don't think it's that great at predicting the future either, but it's just good to think about, you know, what could be on the horizon. So that's something I've been having a little bit of fun with, analyzing kind of different web pages and things like that, and asking questions. You can also, there's various like plugins for like PDFs and things like that, and you can chat to the PDF asking questions, which is far easier than waking your way through a really dry, difficult to read document. So that is first step. On to the next phase of defining user needs. It's like a magic wand in terms of, you know, defining user needs. We can use all of the insight we gathered at the previous stage, and we can use AI to suggest ideas, and help us enhance our creativity and productivity. So a couple of the things that I've mentioned in terms of prompts that you could use for this stage is, based on the user research from the previous stage, define the top 3 user needs that our content should address. And another one is generate user personas based on the feedback of our customer help center. So again, just a couple of ideas just to whet your appetite of how you could use it at that stage of the process. And coming up next, ideation. And that's when I start to get really excited about using generative AI and how it feels like magic, the way it can transform your content. And help you really design something that's quality, help you polish it to perfection, and to meet the needs of your users. And here's just like 3 more suggestions here for that stage of the process. So suggest some multiple layout ideas for the layout of an online vehicle registration page, or help me with some different ways to display heart rate data for a health app, or help me brainstorm ideas for structuring a getting started guide for a software's help center. So there's so many, I mean, the way you can use it for brainstorming or for just getting ideas down for that first draft, I find it absolutely brilliant. And just constantly, you know, going through that iterative process to get something that's better and better. It's something that I've been really enjoying doing. Okay, on to the next stage of the process, and we get on to design. Yeah, I feel like it really is like a magic mirror. I love the way it can suggest various different copy, headlines, keywords, can help you with your language choices, and all with accessibility right at the heart of it. And what I mean by that, I love the way that you can tailor information to individuals' needs and preferences. I love the way it can comprehend and generate language that makes information so much more accessible to users. Those that have a difficulty understanding complex language and that technical jargon, you can make sure that it is in that simple, plain language that we all love, to make sure that it is accessible as it possibly can be. And thinking about promoting inclusive design, it can be trained to understand and respect those nuances of different cultures, abilities, to create content that's much more inclusive and reducing bias that might exist within like crafting content that we do manually, so it can help in that process as well. And the fact it's available 24/7, it's available for everyone. And if you've got a smartphone, if you've got access to the internet, you know, you can use generative AI tools. So I love the fact it's available for everyone. And I've got 3 different suggested prompts that you could use within that design phase. So to draft an error message for users who entered an invalid email address, review this copy for tone, consistency, and suggest improvements, or analyze this page's content for readability and engagement and suggest enhancements to it. Just another 3 ideas for that stage in the process. And moving on to testing and iteration. Like I said, it's very much an iterative process with using AI, with generative AI tools. You shouldn't expect to get a perfect answer the first time you use it. It's all about refining your content, just like we do within content design with that iterative process, right? It's also brilliant for being a vigilant guardian of brand guidelines, the way it can suggest edits to maintain your brand identity. You can check your grammar and your spelling. You can check your copy against your own brand guidelines if they're out there on the web, or you can, for example, a number of times I've referred to the gov.uk design system for certain copy to make sure it's adhering to that design system. So yeah, it's absolutely great for that. It's just really about asking the right questions and being very specific. And it's really great in terms of that, responding to kind of, user feedback to iterate your content. There was, something recently, this has happened a couple of times. And I don't know if you're like me, but I find it quite difficult to think on the spot and respond straight away when I've had feedback and think crafting kind of new messages for a mobile app user flow, for example. Quite often I'll pause, reflect, come back at a later date once I've had a proper think about it. However, I'm spread quite thin. I'm a solo content designer. Sometimes I can be quite under pressure, and it's really helped with those kind of low-hanging fruit to kind of respond in the moment. So for example, I had this scenario and I asked ChatGPT, you need to write a message to a user for an empty state. You thought that the following text would work. No events found, use a different date range to try again. But the feedback I got from the product manager was that this message wouldn't apply to users that didn't include a date range. What do you suggest as an alternative? And on the spot, I was able to get something that actually worked brilliantly. And, if I had the time without ChatGPT, I'm sure I could have come to a similar message that would have been perfect for the users. But actually, I didn't have the time, and I used ChatGPT and I produced something that was exactly what we needed. And I got great feedback, and it completely fitted the bill for what I needed based on all of the data and insight that we gathered after that. So definitely recommend it for those simple tasks. And I've got a couple of examples of how you might use it. So based on user feedback, suggest revisions for the instructions on how to apply for a business license, or proofread the in-app message in our mobile app for language clarity and motivational tone using UK English. Something to recognise as well, and I'm not sure about the other generative AI tools, but certainly for ChatGPT, the default is US English, not UK English. So again, it's coming back to being clear and being specific for what it is that you need to get the output that you're looking for. And with that in mind, for me, it's like having a virtual assistant on hand, working away in the background just to help me whenever I need it. But as I said, it needs clear guidance. It can't think or act independently. So with that in mind, tell me, have you ever been disappointed by AI when you didn't get what you expected? Just a quick question for the next 30 seconds or so. Be great to hear from you if you've used a prompt in ChatGPT or Bard where you didn't get the result you expected, and I will give you some various tips to help you. How's it looking, Tom? Leah?
Lee says he's been upset even when I tell it to be concise or simple, it is very verbose.
Okay.
A couple of people have agreed with Lee there. Louis said, "Yeah, I've tried using prompts, but not sure if I'm doing them well." Ethan says, "I do a lot of explain like I'm 5."
Yeah.
It's Matt says it's not great. Striking the right tone. The first prompt always needs some redoing. I think third prompt is somewhere close. A tip. Oh, Rachel gives a tip on verbosity. It is helpful to say make this as short as possible instead of short. Works much better. Let me say that out again because it didn't make sense to myself. It's helpful to say to make this as short as possible instead of short. Works much better.
Great advice.
MS says it came out of something too simple the other day, more dumbed down and childlike rather than concise, plain English. So that's the other side.
Oh, interesting.
Michelle says, yes, I think it's a combination between me not having the best prompts, but also AI not having real empathy. It always feels too stiff or generic.
That's a fair point.
And I'm going to read one more out. Sarah Johnson says, I don't know why I give Sarah's full name. Sarah says, I've asked it to format text accordingly to the rules I provide, but it only seems to follow half the rules.
Thanks all for sharing. Those are all very fair points, and I think it's important to recognize it isn't without its limitations. It's not perfect, although I think generally what people have shared about their experience and what I keep seeing being shared about about people's experience falls into one of the four things: inconsistency in the style of tone, which is fair; inability to produce plain English content; difficulty in generating certain types of content. For example, it lacks the content text to know kind of what that content is for specifically. And ineffectiveness in capturing certain tone of voice or humor. And that comes back to what we were saying about kind of it feeling very generic, and I don't think anyone said soulless, but I think sometimes it does come across completely devoid of like anything that sounds human. It lacks the warmthness. It lacks the warmth of the human touch. However, based on these issues, I do have some suggestions that will help improve your interaction with ChatGPT and other AI tools. And that is, first off, start your prompt with act as an expert in. So whatever your goals are, whatever you're doing, act as an expert in content design, UX writer, act as an expert in I don't know, a hiring manager. If you're looking for like tips on a job or whatever, it's about giving that ChatGPT a frame of reference to start off with. So that's number one. Number two, give as much context as possible, and that includes the following. So defining that desired style and tone, so being very clear and explicit about what it is that you want, and who is it for. Specify who the audience is, what the purpose is of your content. What is it for? Is it for a presentation? Is it for a web page? Is it for is it for a web-based app? As being as specific as possible is really important. And again, I mean, it's making it clear that you need it in plain English or simple language to help provide an example of that level of complexity that you're looking for in your output. Being clear on just reading my notes. That's number three. So being specific about the type of content it's for, requesting that it's in plain English, and defining the desired style and tone. So that's all under give as much context as possible. The clearer you can be, the better. Number three, review and verify responses. Now, we're content designers. What we do, it's an iterative process. And I think when you're working with AI as a tool, I feel it's exactly the same. You don't expect a perfect result from that first prompt, and it's the same from having a conversation with, someone that you work with, a tricky stakeholder or a friend. If you're talking about something that's particularly complex, you don't just get the answer from one question. You have to go backwards and forwards so that you understand each other. So I would view that interaction with AI as a conversation. It needs to be two-way, and then you can continue to refine and provide kind of additional feedback. Actually, that's not what you meant. That's not what I meant. I actually meant this, and you can go backwards and forwards and get something that's more to the standard that you expect. There's also an absolute brilliant prompt that I will share after this, and it is called the prompt of all prompts, and I will share it. I haven't got it to hand right this second, but that will help kind of put in context exactly what I'm saying. So essentially what you're asking is, I want you to be my prompt engineer. I'm going to give you a question, and you're going to ask me follow-up questions to get exactly what you need so that you can give me a perfect prompt. And you end up going backwards and forwards. And it does take a little bit of time, but the result that you get is much better than anything you would have expected had you not have done that. So I will drop that in the chat afterwards. So that's number 3. And of course, kind of fact checking and editing. Remember, it's a language model. It's not human. You need to critically evaluate the content of the output. I think a number of us have seen the horror stories about where ChatGPT has kind of made up references and sources, which is not great, and has landed people in hot water. I remember there was a story about a couple of lawyers that got themselves in trouble by not checking the output of ChatGPT. So yeah, make sure that you do look at and follow up anything that cites sources. There's actually a couple of better tools. Perplexity AI is actually really brilliant for that. It can search across academic papers, search across Reddit, YouTube, Wikipedia, a knowledge engine called Wolfram Alpha. But if you're searching across the whole web, if you're being really broad, it will cite every single source for you. And I think that's absolutely fantastic, and what a lot of us wish ChatGPT actually was more like. And lastly, learn how to write better prompts. So you might have heard about prompt engineering. You might have heard that banded around. It's learning about how to craft better prompts, essentially. And it's not a job, it's a skill set. So yeah, that's my take on that. It's just a skill that needs to be learned, the same as how we all learn how to Google things. I don't know if that's a right kind of analogy to use, but I think that the best, all prompt engineering is learning how to write better prompts. And there's a wealth of resources on there, which I can share with you. So kind of just to wrap all of that up in a bow of top tips, ChatGPT and other generative AI tools can help you in the process, but they're not perfect. They're not going to produce the desired output on that first try. So just be patient, iterate and refine, and then you'll get the most out of these tools. So onwards to provide guidance and advice. And I sound like a broken record because I feel like every single point I'm like, oh, it's amazing. But I absolutely love how brilliant it's been to support my own personal development. Obviously it's important to have, a mentor, a coach, all of that good stuff, those development conversations to drive your career, have those things as well. I'm not saying don't have those, but if you don't know where to start, and if you want a new job, or you want if you want a promotion, or you want to just learn a new skill, it might be nothing to do with your job, you can use it for that guidance and support really tailored towards your personal needs. So for example, and these are 2 personal ones that I've actually used myself. So a couple of months ago, month or so ago, I went on a content strategy course. But before that, I really wanted to understand, like, in the simplest terms, like, what does it actually mean when we say content strategy? And, you know, give me beginner friendly curriculum so that I can understand and learn this topic efficiently. So that was one that I used. And another one that I've used recently is I want a different job. I want to be promoted. Here is a list of my responsibilities, and the new responsibilities I've just taken on help me write a proposal for a new role. So that's something that I've done, and I didn't really know where to start, but after that I was able to produce a really great tailored kind of plan of what to do over the next 6 months to achieve what it is that I'm looking for. And another thing that I've found it useful for as well is, you know, we've all got access to our CV, and I've said, based on my career history and my current job responsibilities, you know, what other jobs could I do in the future? Just so, and it gave me a bunch of things that I hadn't even considered. So I thought it was really useful, again, for brainstorming. It's brilliant for that. So yeah, I definitely recommend it for support your personal development. It's really great to help update your CV, to help you write cover letters and things like that. Yeah, absolutely fantastic for development and learning new skills. Now on to the not so great stuff, and that's the pitfalls of AI, of which there are many. Yeah, it's not without its limitations. A lot of people are concerned with intellectual property risk. There's a number of concerns about data privacy, and a lot of that is due to, from using ChatGPT, it gives OpenAI, which is the owner of ChatGPT, permission to use information that you put into future model training. However, you can avoid all of that if you turn off chat history in ChatGPT. So that is an option. If you're concerned about, if you're a ChatGPT user, or you want to be, but you're worried about security, there's now a security portal where you can find out everything you'd ever want to know about data security, privacy, and compliance. There's a wealth of documentation on there that you can peruse at your own leisure. Another thing you can do, you can use ChatGPT through an API. Now, I'm not techie, so I'm going to attempt to explain what an API is. That hopefully makes sense. But essentially, API is a set of rules that allows your application to communicate securely with the AI system. So it can provide instructions to the AI about how to handle your data, like not storing it or remembering it. So it gives you that extra layer of privacy in that interaction. So there's that as giving you added security. And on the kind of theme of like IP issues in particular, I don't know if this is a controversial take, but most of our ideas aren't actually that unique anyway. Most text-heavy work doesn't contain true IP. I mean, obviously proprietary information, code, personal details, customer information, that's an entirely different story. And something that I saw on LinkedIn this week from Rachel Woods, who is a great follow on LinkedIn, by the way, for all things AI, who has said, if you're concerned about the information you're putting out there, then don't apply the Reddit test. If you wouldn't post it anonymously on Reddit, don't put it on ChatGPT, which seems quite common sense to me. So something to think about. So that's data privacy, IP issues. Bias in the AI models comes up as a challenge again and again, in the fact that AI models can learn and replicate various biases presented in their training data, which is a massive concern for ethics. However, there's various ways that we can overcome that, and I'm really interested to see the developments that are going to be taking place off the back of this, so that we can gather more inclusive, diverse data to help reduce those biases, having regular checks and balances in place so that AI systems are regularly audited for biases during that language training process. More transparency over the decision making for AI decision making processes, so that those biases can be spotted, so that we can mitigate against that, and various techniques which can be applied to data before or after model training to reduce bias. And of course, there's a lot of, there's a lot of people working to address those issues at the moment. And I think it's important to be very choosy about the tools that we do use and advocate for ethical AI practices, strength in numbers, and making sure that we're making good use of the positive benefits of AI while mitigating those risks that are available. And another thing that's been brought up that I've seen more recently is the environmental impact that generative AI can add. It apparently can add about 4 or 5 times more computing power per search, and that infrastructure in terms of the data centers, they might struggle to meet that demand because of the increase in energy requirements, and how that contributes to greenhouse gases and emissions, etc. However, Google's already released a new version of Bard that consumes much less energy, and the various tech giants have made a number of commitments to reduce their carbon emissions and transition to more renewable energy sources. And like with any new technology, it gets more efficient. So hopefully that's not going to be a massive impact on the environment. And kind of with that in mind, talking about the things to kind of mitigate the risks and the pitfalls of AI, there's so many ways AI can be used for good. As I mentioned, researchers and organizations are actively working on responsible AI development. And I don't know if you've seen in the news recently, there was a draft EU AI Act, which has been backed by big tech. And essentially, it will be the world's first major set of comprehensive rules to regulate AI technology. And that covers AI in the areas of facial recognition, social scoring, algorithmic decision making. And it's already backed by Google, Amazon, and Microsoft. And they have committed that they will make sure that they help to ensure that AI is used in a responsible and ethical way. And that they will work with the EU to implement that act. So I think that's good. That's what we need. We need regulation, and it needs to happen. It needs to happen as soon as possible. And I think with a lot of the pitfalls that we do recognise, the thought of integrating it into our lives might seem scary, but I think it's important to recognise, and I'll say this again, like, it's not going to replace us. Like, it's going to, it's going to power our creativity and our productivity. It can't replace us. You can't replace human empathy and strategic thinking. All of the things that we bring to our work, bring to each other's lives as human beings. It cannot replace that. So just leaving you with a few final thoughts. While it can be a powerful ally, the true magic of content design lies in human creativity, empathy, and understanding. And in the words of Dumbledore, and I do know we do more than words as content designers, but humour me just for a second in the absence of content design quotes in the theme of magic. Words are, in my not so humble opinion, our most inexhaustible source of magic. So I think, let's embrace AI's assistant whilst recognizing that, it can't replace the human touch, but it can help us, do a lot more things and all of that good stuff that I've been talking about. And I think we should embrace it as an opportunity to take the lead in our organizations, in businesses, to demonstrate our value, to support the business in leading AI implementation. I think this is a massive opportunity. And who better to do it than content designers? We're the experts in language and user experience. So that's something I foresee as being, a massive role for us to play. And if you're still not convinced by the magic of AI, something that you can enter into ChatGPT or any kind of generative AI tools that I find absolutely fascinating. Tell me something that's not been said before, that's paradoxical but true. And I've found the output to that. It's blown my mind quite a bit with the way it can be quite creative. So yeah, just wanted to leave you with that little nugget to try there. In terms of learning more, there are some fantastic free resources out there. There is a new generative AI learning path from Google. There is a number of different courses on FutureLearn, free and paid options. If you've got a LinkedIn premium subscription, there's a number of tools. There's a number of videos on there, and Udemy, there's absolutely loads. There was an article published the other day about the top free courses specifically for ChatGPT. So if ChatGPT is the one you want to find out more about, there's a fantastic article which I will paste in the chat. Yeah, so that's absolutely everything that I was going to talk about. It'd be great to hear your questions now.
That was amazing, Kate. Thank you. Very comprehensive. Loads of claps going off there.
Thank you. I can't see any of you, but thank you for thank
you can stop sharing your screen if you want to now, so you can have a look at our pretty faces.
Brilliant. I've stopped sharing. Well,
and I've got you'll be able to see the chat there, Janelle, as I asked a question.
Brilliant.
I strongly agree that we have loads of value to add on top of the magic of what AI can do, and I'm super duper pro AI. Love using it every day of my work. However, I'm also certain not all folks holding the purse strings feel that way. How do we talk about our value with those who need convincing not to ditch the human content designers and embrace the machine?
Right, I feel like I need to read through that again.
Yes, my reading wasn't very good there.
Oh no, it's loads of value to add on top of the magic AI can do. Not all folks hold the purse strings feel that way. How do we talk about value? And those who need convincing not to ditch the human. That's a very good question. And I don't feel like I've got all the answers to that. I think that's a very real concern that many of us have. And I feel like there's no doubt it's going to be disruptive to the world of work. Although I don't think we need to be fearful, but I think it's about engaging with business leaders, so that they understand the role that we bring as content designers. I feel that that's often something that it's not clearly understood, the role that we have. So I don't know if that helps at all. I'm kind of just recognizing that it is a challenge, but yeah, as I say, because we're the experts in language and user experience, the business will want to benefit from the efficiencies that AI can bring. And I don't think there's a better people to do that than content designers. So it's about making sure you're having the right conversations with those business leaders so they understand who you are and the value that you bring.
And it's not too much different to proving your worth as a content designer. When there is an AI, you still have to prove your worth and make people understand the work that we do. I want to give people a shout if they want to ask their own questions. Lee, do you want to ask your question?
Hi, yes. Yeah, I'm pretty excited by what you were saying. Yeah, thank you very much for the inspiring presentation. But yeah, I was just wondering, yeah, we might be able to free up our time in the ways you say, but then how do we make sure that freed up time is then used, for us to do the strategic thinking and the getting involved at the beginning of the design process, and all those things we hope to do.
Yeah, I'm just kind of reflecting on what you're saying for a second there, Lee. Yeah, I don't think I've got a solid answer for that, to be honest, but I think the benefits of AI can be afforded to, everyone in their day-to-day work, not just content designers. So I think we can help support the business in kind of leading that, helping support other people with, what prompts that they use to help make work more efficient. I think I'm going off on a tangent. My brain is still whirring in the background trying to kind of process, but I don't think I've got a solid answer about, how do we ensure that we get what we want to do with all this free time. Certainly, I feel like it's made, I don't think it's necessarily freed up my time. I guess I'm able to focus more on the stuff that I should be doing that I don't get time to focus on. So I feel like I'm just starting to make headway in some of those things because I've been able to automate some of my processes that used to take me a lot longer. So I wouldn't necessarily say it's freed up my time. It's just it allowed me the space to focus on the more strategic, value-adding stuff that I should be doing anyway, but often I don't get enough time to dedicate to really make a difference.
I'm still waiting for the promises of the 80s where we got told that IT was going to give us all a 3-day week and we have loads more leisure time. So I would imagine we'll just get put to work with all the free time that AI frees up. Lewis, do you want to say your question?
Yeah, I can do. I've got kids around, so apologies if there's like a load of background noise. But yeah, thanks for that, Kate. It's really interesting. I wondered, I work at an agency sort of doing stuff for public sector. And I was curious, like, do you tell your sort of team or clients that you use AI? I kind of wonder if some people in particular might feel funny about like the less confident perhaps about sort of like the quality of the work. Like some might be sort of interested and embrace it, but yeah, just wondering if you get sort of, if you're quiet about it or if you get any sort of feedback, positive or negative, either way.
Yeah, that's a really good question. And I am completely open and honest about the people that I work with, that I use AI. Obviously I'm careful about the things that I am asking and that I am putting in there. I've set up an I'm not working with external clients or anything because I'm an employee. So what I've set up is an internal Teams channel called, what do I call it? Called it the AI Toolshed, and it's for everyone within R&D just to share kind of great resources and things that they've learned, and all sorts of ways where we can get advice and support each other. So that's been quite useful. I think that's a fair point. I wonder if some people might feel less confident in the quality of the work. I think that's a fair point. I think what's really great is that there are tools out there that, not just ChatGPT, but there's other platforms available. Like, for example, there's one called writer.com. I don't know if people are familiar with that. And it's built specifically for businesses. It's different compared to the large language models of ChatGPT and Bard. It's trained on business data rather than, in their words, the mediocrity of the internet. So there's certainly alternatives out there that might give you a lot more confidence, that you can host yourself and you can customize your own version of your large language model, and you can train it on your own company's data. So that there might be other options that certainly might give people a lot more confidence than just the ones like ChatGPT and Bard and things like that. So I don't know if I've answered that question, but I think that's a fair point, that you wondering if some people might kind of perceive your skills differently or less because of your using technology in that way. But I think my personal view is that the genie's out of the bottom, the genie's out of the bottle, and all AI is going to be embedded within all of these different tools that we're already using every day. Like, if you missed it at the beginning, I've talked about how there's so many features coming to all of the Google products, all of the Microsoft products. we're seeing it more and more, you know, LinkedIn, Miro, whole of other tools that, you know, every week there seems to be, you know, a household name that's now using generative AI. So I think it's going to become the norm. It's just at the moment there's still so many people that it's still so new and fresh, and people, you know, have reservations about it for various reasons. So I think give it in a year, a couple of years, it will just be a way of working. It will just be, you know, how we live, how we work. But that's just my personal take. And Becky, I agree. AI will not replace you. A person using AI will. Totally. I completely agree. That's just my opinion.
I agree as well. Is there any other questions? Well, Lee's doing a follow-up once, asking you were saying about how it's not freeing up your time.
Yeah, it just allows you to focus on the more value-adding stuff that most of us don't have a chance to get to because we're all so busy.
Nia, you were saying you might have a question before. Do you have one? I know I'm putting the pressure on you.
I was just going to ask Kate how your colleagues have responded to this. Like, have you had quite different reactions, especially from sort of people maybe higher up?
Nope. I've had some good conversations with a number of different people across different levels. You know, it really varies. A lot of people still say, do you know what, I've got access to it, but I've still not used it. That tends to be what comes up again and again. But I've not had anyone say like, oh no, are you being, you know, you're not writing this in there, you know, we've got you know, I think it goes back to being, you know, being careful that you're not putting any sensitive information on there. No one's questioned me on that. You know, I use my judgment the same as anyone else. But the response has been positive. People want to learn more. I think people are excited about the opportunities that it can bring. And yeah, I've not had anyone respond negative so far.
That's pretty good.
You don't get to do less work, just better work. Yeah, I think that's a simple way of saying it. Instead of spending hours analysing user interviews, you can do it for you. So you can speak to 10 users instead of 5. Yeah, that's exactly how I see it. So I don't have access to a user researcher. I don't know if I managed to share that at the beginning, but I'm really excited at the way, kind of, particularly when it becomes more integrated into things like Google Sheets and, you know, Excel, that we can use it to analyse those real large volumes of data, which you can't, because you can't really do large data sets within ChatGPT at the moment anyway. So yeah, I'm really excited to know how you can make light work of that research process, of that I think I've maxed my cognitive load for the day because I'm losing the I'm losing my speech, but hopefully get what I'm talking about. That analysis stage is going to be a lot easier. Oh, you can do large data sets if you split it in parts. Good to know.
That's blown my mind, the idea of doing chat logs and getting the AI to summarize it or user interview text. That's just, the possibilities are endless. I have a huge issue on the ethics of AI and how we need to be careful with it and as a personal agency. But the positivities are amazing around what we can do to make us do better time. And it's like a first sense check, and we go back and you put the human into it. So that's been an amazing talk, Kate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me.
And I will be putting the recording up ASAP. We'll share a link, and Nia's put a link, if you scroll back quickly through the chat, to the content club. If you're not a member already, come along, take part. We'd like you to join. Thank you very much, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you so much.
Bye. Thank you.